In the small town of Ashwood, there was a forest known as Black Hollow, notorious for the unsettling phenomena that occurred within its boundaries. The townsfolk spoke in hushed tones about the Watcher, a malevolent presence that stalked those who dared to enter the woods. Despite the warnings, curiosity often led thrill seekers to venture into Black Hollow, many of whom never returned. Lena, a university student majoring in folklore, was captivated by the legend of the Watcher. Determined to uncover the truth behind the stories, she decided to spend a weekend in Ashwood to investigate. She rented a small cabin on the edge of Black Hollow and equipped herself with a camera, a notebook, and a strong resolve. On the first day, Lena met with several locals, but they were reluctant to speak in detail about the Watcher. Old Mr. Hargrove, the town's unofficial historian, was the only one who offered any substantial information. He told Lena about a string of disappearances that dated back over a century and recounted chilling tales of encounters with the Watcher, an entity that appeared as a shadowy figure with glowing eyes. Despite the ominous accounts, Lena was undeterred. That evening, she ventured into Black Hollow, the dense canopy casting long shadows that danced eerily in the twilight. The deeper she went, the more oppressive the atmosphere became. The usual sounds of the forest, chirping birds, rustling leaves, were conspicuously absent, replaced by an eerie silence. As she explored, Lena found strange markings on the trees, symbols that seemed to pulse with a faint, malevolent energy. She documented everything, her excitement mingling with a growing sense of unease. Just as she was about to head back, she noticed a flicker of movement out of the corner of her eye. She turned, but there was nothing there. Dismissing it as her imagination, she continued her journey back to the cabin. That night, as Lena reviewed her photos, she froze. In one of the shots, a shadowy figure stood among the trees, its eyes two glowing orbs staring directly at the camera. Her heart raced as she recalled Mr. Hargrove's description of the Watcher. Determined to get more evidence, she decided to return to the woods the next day. The following afternoon, Lena ventured deeper into Black Hollow, her nerves on edge. She felt as if she were being watched, but every time she looked around, she saw nothing. The oppressive silence weighed heavily on her, and she found it hard to shake the feeling of dread that had settled in her chest. As night fell, Lena set up a small campfire and prepared to spend the night in the woods. She hoped to capture more evidence of the Watcher, though a part of her regretted her decision to stay. The darkness around her seemed to come alive, the trees casting long, sinister shadows. Around midnight, the temperature plummeted and a dense fog rolled in, shrouding the forest in an impenetrable mist. Lena's breath came in short gasps as she heard footsteps approaching. She grabbed her camera and turned it on, the flash piercing the darkness. Through the mist, she saw the outline of a figure, tall, with glowing eyes that seemed to bore into her soul. The Watcher was real. Paralyzed with fear, Lena watched as the figure moved closer. The air grew colder, and the fog thickened, swirling around the Watcher as if drawn to its presence. Lena stumbled backward, dropping her camera. She turned to run, but the fog seemed to close in around her, making it difficult to see or breathe. She could hear the Watcher's footsteps behind her, slow and deliberate. Panic set in, and she sprinted through the trees, her heart pounding in her chest. The forest seemed to twist and turn, disorienting her. She tripped over a root and fell, the impact knocking the wind out of her. As she struggled to get up, a hand grabbed her ankle, cold and clammy. She kicked and screamed, but the grip tightened. Lena managed to break free and continued running, not daring to look back. She burst out of the woods and collapsed at the edge of the road, her body trembling with exhaustion and terror. The next morning, Lena was found by a passing motorist and taken to the local hospital. She was hysterical, muttering about the Watcher in the fog. The townsfolk were skeptical of her story, but the fear in her eyes was undeniable. Lena never returned to Black Hollow. The experience left her deeply traumatized, and she abandoned her studies of folklore. The photos she took that night were lost in the chaos, but the memory of the Watcher's glowing eyes haunted her dreams for years to come. The legend of the Watcher continued to grow, fueled by Lena's harrowing tale. And though many dismissed it as just another ghost story, those who dared to enter Black Hollow knew better. The Watcher was real, and it was always watching, waiting for its next victim.